Good morning. I'm here with Shawn Wallace, who's the pastor of Washington International Church, and he was kind enough to allow us to use his facilities for our interviews with Oz Guinness this week. Shawn, thank you so much for that. It was great having Oz here. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.
It's really interesting to me that you've got an international church here in Washington, D.C. A lot of our churches, of course, are in cities all over the world. Most, not all, use English as a common language, which I'm guessing you guys do here. But they're usually in countries where maybe English isn't the primary language. And here, of course, it is. So can you tell us a little bit, what is it like leading an international church in the capital of the United States of America?
Well, God just gave this opportunity. This church has been here 30 years, founded 30 years ago, not by me, but I've been here 3 years. But Washington, D.C. is such an international city. People come here from all over the world. Our church is currently that. We have people from maybe 30 or so different countries that come here. So even though we're in D.C., English is obviously primary language, there are still people from everywhere. And so they come here, often short-term, 3-year terms, maybe with World Bank or things like that. And so they come here, but what a great opportunity to make disciples of all nations by people God has brought here, and then regularly then takes them back to other places. But it's a unique opportunity that way. So it is unique, but a great opportunity as well to make disciples of all nations right here in D.C.
Yeah, well, it sounds a lot like a lot of our international churches. You've got that transient nature. Yeah. Sometimes we say it's like pastoring a parade. Yes. You do what you can as they go by. But it's great to be intentional about it, making disciples that are going all over the world. Now, this church was founded by David and Nancy Wong, correct? And some of you all will know David. He came to many, I think at least 7 conferences over the years at MICN, has been a big friend at MICN. That's how he connected me to Shawn. But how did you get connected to the church here and to international church ministry?
So my wife and I, our family, we were missionaries in East Africa for 6 years. And so from 2014 to 2019, we were living in East Africa, most of that time in Nairobi, Kenya. So I was on staff, a multicultural staff in Nairobi, a church called New City Fellowship in Nairobi. And so we had Kenyan pastor, Indian pastor, me as an American. And so I was pastoring at an international church in Nairobi. And so I've had that cross-cultural experience, cross-cultural pastoral experience. And so how I got connected here is actually one of the former elders that used to attend this church. He moved to Nairobi and came to our church in Nairobi. So I had met him, and so I had known of this church. And so then in 18 or so, when we started to think about coming back to the United States for some family reasons, this church just came on the radar. And so we were invited to come here and candidate, and yeah, it just, wow, the Lord opened the door for it.
That's fantastic. But now you said that was 2019?
Yeah, we moved here in June of 2019.
So you basically pastored the church through COVID. Mm-hmm. That's been most of your experience of pastoring.
Most in DC has been through that, yeah.
Wow, okay, so I'm just thinking about, for you, of course, it's been a really unique experience, as for all of us, but especially being the new pastor and then that hitting. Now we're coming out of COVID in many ways. At the same time, there's a lot of other things at play in life, especially in this city. The polarization in the United States politics and just all the stuff that we all see on the news anywhere we are in the world. We see these things. So I'm curious, it is such a unique setting you're ministering in. What do you see as the future? What are some of your goals for the next couple of years as hopefully COVID's in the rear view, and of how you're going to engage the internationals and the city that you're living in?
As we used to teach in our church in Kenya, we firmly believe, and I hope we all believe, right, that we know the gospel reconciles us and God. But the fact that it reconciles us and God also means it must reconcile us with each other across racial, socioeconomic lines, all of it. And that message has always been the same, and it's still the same. It was the same through COVID. It was challenged, but it's still the same, and it's the same moving forward. And so now that we're kind of getting on the other side of COVID and the doors are opening more, It's that same message that's always been. We are reconciled with God, and because of that, we must also be reconciled with each other, no matter what background we're from or things like that. And so, yeah, so moving forward, there's an ability to be more intentional in that now that we're so locked down. I mean, DC was very locked down compared to a lot of places in the United States anyways. And but now that we're having those opportunities, one, God brings people to our doorstep regularly, and that's amazing. But then God has also opened doors through our children's ministry. You know, people often that are coming to DC, they're busy, they're working, doing really high-powered jobs often in DC, but they have deep concern for their children. And so as we've had opportunity to do, especially children's ministry, we've just seen amazing open doors in those ways. You know, yeah. So that's one of the big areas. Yeah, that's kind of the main one moving forward.
Oh, that sounds really exciting and encouraging. Well, Shawn, thanks again for letting us use your space. It's been really great to be here. What we're going to do now is in person. We're going to have somebody pray for you and for Washington International Church. So October 4th, you know that we're praying for you there. So we're going to now go to a time of prayer.